National contender or a sleeper pick, a dark horse squad that could go all the way. Tonight we're talking NAIA football. Myself, Matt Schwarzler. Matt, what's up, buddy?
Not much, man. Just hanging out, getting ready for the football
Liar,
season already. It's
liar. New gig. This is the
what?
first time we've had you on here since the new
Oh,
job. First of all, congratulations. Tell the people what you do for a real living, my friend.
yeah. So I have just accepted a job at my alma mater, Dakota Wesleyan University, sports information director. I have moved back to Mitchell. Here in the thick of it, getting things ready for next season, but still got time to talk NAIA football because it's just I'm so pumped for this coming season, dude. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited, but I'm more excited that we have you to be a part of it, my friend. You've earned it. I think that's going to be
Appreciate
an
it.
awesome role for you. But again, I'm just pumped that I get to have you alongside me. I'm constantly learning more and more about NAIA football, but you're a guy that's literally lived it, played it, and has covered it much more in depth and longer than I have. And so tonight we're talking sleepers and contenders. Our sleeper is a not top 25 team, could be on the fringe, could be at the bottom of a conference, someone who we think can make a run and is poised to do so in 25. The contender speaks for itself, a team that really should have a chance at the national championship this fall. Start us up. I teed it up for you. Tell me who your contender is for the fall of 25.
Yeah, well, you want to start so amiably. Let's talk about friends. Let's get friendly. The Friends Falcons. They are my contender. I really wanted to talk about Montana Western, but I talked about them all last season. So I wanted to mention, a team that maybe doesn't get as much shine on this show or in other shows as
Sure.
you might listen to. But the Friends Falcons coming off of an 11-2 season, finished 4-1 on their side of the KCAC Kessinger last season. And their season came to an end when they lost to Grandview, the national champions, by only 4 points,
Yeah.
21-17 result. I mean, we saw what Grandview did in the national championship last year. That was probably the most competitive game they were in all that season. And I think it bodes really well for you, especially when you look at their SP plus splits. They were the 12th best team overall in the metrics, a top 20 offense, a top 14 defense. And it all starts on the offensive side of the ball with your rushing attack. And Cavante Baker, second team all conference quarterback, doesn't tell the entire story. They run a triple option. So
Yep.
obviously Cavante Baker's doing a lot more running, but man, he is a machine and absolutely going to take this team to new heights.
He absolutely is. And you and I think, have covered it at maybe at different points or at least have read about it. But his story and the way that he found Friends University and the Falcons is a very interesting one. And hearing from his coach and people around there, he says, Coach Harrison, the quote here is, anybody in Wichita who's watched him play knows he's a little league legend here. Someone who tore it up all the way from the little league into high school and beyond. He goes on to his first year at Ellsworth Community College. Injuries kind of derail his career from there. And he steps away from football entirely. And that's something for a lot of people, that would be it. That would be, to call it quits right there. He says in 2021, after the birth of his daughter, Avilia, that it, quote, changed a lot, especially having a little girl, because it softened me up a little bit, which is such a neat deal to hear from him. He talked about looking at life differently and now continuing to work, still being away from football after the birth of his daughter. He reconnects with the former high school coach, Terry Harrison, to be the quarterback of his rebuild at Friends University. And so you take this long path away from football, and it's something like having a child, having this daughter, and also an old acquaintance of the high school coach taking the job at Friends to get him back involved. And he has been the catalyst for this Friends offense and the way they're able to attack and be multidimensional with him under center, dude.
Yeah, and obviously I can't speak on his experience, but just going through all of that, coming out the other side, still coming back to football. I mean, it's pure joy at this point. He's having a
Yeah.
blast out there. He's playing really well. And not to mention, I can imagine you're having a lot of fun when you also have a first team all conference running back coming back in
Yep.
Elias Pino and a first team all conference fullback. How many times do you see that? And Nick Cordova, the core of Baker, Pino, and Cordova, combined last season for 37 touchdowns, 2,841 yards. I
Oh
mean, that
my
is
goodness.
unreal production. And they're all coming back. And not to mention on the defensive side of the ball, you also bring back Barrett Rhodes, who's been kind of a cornerstone of your defense up there on the defensive line.
Yeah.
26 tackles last season, 12 tackles for losses, and 9 sacks going into his senior season. Also a first team all conference guy. I am so excited to watch this team play, especially in an insanely competitive KCAC this year. Something that I've kind of seen with the preseason in this conference is that both the Kessinger and Bissell divisions, they do like named divisions. It's not like West and East.
Yeah. And that just
But
changed, I believe, in recent years, right? Pretty recently.
yeah, it's in the past couple of years, and they even this year have reshuffled a couple of things,
Yes.
which obviously makes the division super competitive. I think they did a good job this year. But even then, I still think Friends is just like top of the pecking order in this conference. Also, want to mention for Friends this season, there are a couple keys that they should really focus on. My first note here is play FU football. What do you think FU stands for, Cody?
Uh, Friends University.
You bet it does.
There we go. There we go.
But also, what else FU could stand for? That's also kind of what I'm getting at there. This triple option style of football. Not only do you want it to reflect your program and how you've built that up in the few years that they've been there, Terry Harrison has done a wonderful job going into year 3 with this program, peaking at the absolute right time. But they got to be confident in their identity. I made a note here that it kind of reminds me of Dort in previous years, how we talk about
Okay.
them. It's an attitude of we know that you know what we're doing. Like it's a triple option at the end of the day. Like there are a few things on defense you can do to trap it and try to regulate it. But like at the end of the day, we're just going to line up in front of you and be better than you because we care more. We think we're better. And they really have to take that attitude. Obviously, you have the resume to back it up. Not so much an underdog anymore, like you might have been in years previous. You're kind of a top dog, and people know that. Be confident in it. Let's see it on the field. Let's see it with these 3 guys rushing for almost 3,000 yards again and putting up 40 touchdowns or whatever they're going to do. I think it's going to be a really good season for them. They don't lose much on either side of the ball. And as long as everybody could stay in tandem, keep everybody on the same page, especially with this style of team that you run the ball, triple option, like that is super dependent on your defense being in sync with the pacing of the offense. It is absolutely crucial when you're managing the game in the way that you do when you run triple option. It's a lot more methodical. You have to plan it out more. You have to manage your time. So as long as you can keep that together, which I have no reason to believe they won't, I am super excited to see what this team can do beyond the postseason. Maybe they get another shot at a team like Grandview. But yeah, pretty exciting for them. Also, a couple other contenders to watch for outside of Friends. I mentioned Montana Western. Morningside is back. If you know the GPAC, that's not much of a surprise, but they absolutely reloaded and are a very scary team. Evangel, another KCAC team to note, and Benedictine is also another one to watch.
Bring back FU football. Get it on a t-shirt.
We love FU football.
Got to be all in on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately up to them. I know their marketing department probably wouldn't appreciate it.
Maybe I have several heart attacks with the distribution of that.
We can make it work, I think. I mean, that's their problem, not ours, right? So
we should. And flipping it over, man, tell me about a squad that you think's flying under the radar right now has got a good chance to make some noise in 25.
For sure. Going from FU to GU, Graceland in the Heart North Conference, 7-4 record, 5-1 in conference last year. A team that has traditionally been a bottom dweller in the Heart, but they pretty much are solely carried off the back of Gerald Monroe, first team all-conference guy, probably one of your player of the year candidates across the entire country. This is a guy who's averaging 156 yards a game in receiving yards with 22 touchdowns. And that's just on 84 catches. I mean, a total of 1,562 yards.
That's unreal.
Absolutely ridiculous. And it's really important that Cade Ross, their starting quarterback, all signs point to anyways, I haven't heard otherwise, being kind of the catalyst for getting that guy the ball, was producing, decently last year and has some experience, but last year got a full season under his belt. He's dealt with some injuries and wasn't starting the entire season in his previous experience, but he has a full season under his belt. And while, 51% clip passing isn't what you'd, hope and pray for, you're still putting up 33 touchdowns. You're still putting up 2,700 yards and only 14 picks. That's still a pretty good touchdown to interception ratio. So as long as you can keep that core together, get Cade Ross confident, got him feeling like an upperclassman like he should be, this is a team that can really make some noise and nip at the heels of Grandview, which is something that we haven't seen in forever out of anybody in this conference.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's big time. Yeah, team. I think that's a perfect pick then. A team that, again, historically maybe not lived up to those expectations. You have a solid core coming back and guys who seemingly under the same leadership should continue to grow maybe into more of those leadership roles and, of course, the capabilities when it comes to on the field, man. And what about that
Yeah.
2025 schedule when it comes to the Yellow Jackets this fall?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see for them because I feel like the prove it games for them are going to be outside of their side of the conference. They'll be
Okay.
playing Benedictine and they'll be playing Baker from the south portion of the Heart. And those are two top 15, top 20 teams. So if you're in a spot where you beat who you're supposed to beat, you have a good game against Grandview, and you can take one off of a ranked Baker or a ranked Benedictine, you're first in line to get an at-large bid
Yeah.
because those are two. We joke about quality losses in college football all the time, but like reigning national champion and another potentially top 10 team, like that's a really good resume to have as long as you can handle business. And I think too, interesting to note, much like we talked about Friends, this is another program that is in that year 3 upswing. Head coach Patrick Ross has done an amazing job with this program. Like I've said, they were a perennial bottom dweller, and to go 7-4 last year and have a really good showing and have somebody like Gerald Monroe show out and make national headlines, it'll be interesting to see. They also receiver wise haven't been able to confirm this, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but
Sure.
Dejuan McDougall was also a first team, second team all conference guy for them last year, receiver specialist as a return guy. And all signs indicate he's not with the program anymore. Not going to confirm what other program he might be at because I just don't have that information
Fair.
offhand, but all signs point to that being the case. So I'm curious to see what the transition there will be, who you want to plug in there. But obviously you still have Gerald leading the way. And I think this is just such a talented team, such a high powered, explosive team that could really catch people sleeping.
Yeah, and that second option at wideout is important, especially for a guy
Yeah.
if you're in Gerald's shoes, where at the wide receiver 1 position, yes, you're going to draw the most talented defensive back. You're typically going to draw some extra coverage, depending on, they might scheme something up where they have an extra guy in that area. If they know kind of some of those tendencies, when you bring in a quality wide receiver 2 or 3, and you bring in a tight end that can open up the middle of the field and some of these things, that's where you allow your top playmaker to shine because the defense cannot afford to put all this energy and focus on you.
Yeah. It'll be really, like I said, interesting to see what the adjustment is there. They had some decent running back production, but this is a team that's airing it out a lot of the time. I mean, Cade Ross has a massive clip in his pass attempts. Like, makes a lot of sense that they want to get it done through the air. So got to plug somebody in there. I think also a couple other teams to watch for besides this very talented Graceland team. Valley City State is on my list. I am very bullish on how many people they return. Ottawa, Kansas, a 1-win team that has the most all-conference honors I've ever seen in my entire life.
Really?
Bring most of those guys back. And this was a team a couple of years ago that was in a playoff spot as a 6-5 team. Don't count Ottawa out just because they had a down year last year. They had a top 50, they had a top half in the country defense going 1-10. I mean, there's some pieces there that you can definitely work with. And my last team to note, McPherson, very bullish on this team. Don't know whether to talk about them in the contender tier or the dark horse tier because they are that good to where they could probably get an at-large bid to the playoff. Problem is you have friends in Southwestern and, one of the teams you're going to talk about here in a moment on their side of the conference as well. So
the side of the conference is egregious. Yeah. It's outrageous. It really is. And we'll talk about that absolutely in a second. But the team I want to talk about first in terms of my contender status being Ottawa, Arizona, OUAZ. Not sure how they typically pronounce that one, Uaz or something around those lines. But, of course, a couple of them got to make the distinction state-wise. This is a team, though, that you talk about those SP plus splits, man. This is one of those squads that is right up on the top of that mountain, the best in the country. 8th overall, 2nd in offense. 8-2 a year ago in 2024. They finished 16th in those final standings in the NAIA top 25. And they lost to the team that you just mentioned, Friends University. They take them out in the first round of the playoffs, 47-35. A really high-scoring affair for a triple option type offense. So that's one that definitely had to go back through and do a little bit of research on in terms of how they approached that game and that style. And Friends, again, to talk about them a little bit more, for them to stay in a game like that, that's not typically a triple option type game when you're talking about possessing the ball for a large majority and taking that time of possession away and not allowing the other offense to even get on the field, right? Keeping the defense on the field for the majority of it. Ottawa, Arizona has the ability to strike so quickly on offense, and that's what allows them to outpace even the teams like Friends and others in those categories. Now, one of the biggest storylines around them coming into the 2025 season is a change at the leadership. New head coach in Riley Murphy down there in Arizona. He becomes only the second coach in program history following Mike Nesbitt and his departure from the program. Most recently, he was the offensive coordinator at NAIA St. Thomas, Florida, or St. Thomas University in Florida, who we've talked about on this show, had Tay Farmer on pretty recently. That offense was one that lit up scoreboards across the country last year, and I think that is a big reason why he was a top candidate for this job. Last year, they finished as a top 5 team in the country, regardless, across the nation. Prior to that, though, got stops at Division II, Gannon, Lake Erie, Fayetteville State, and others across a bunch of different levels. So he will be the new man in charge of this program and this offense. He's taken struggling programs to new heights. People who are familiar with Division II, you know that Lake Erie and Gannon maybe a little bit more success than the former of those two programs, not perennial powerhouses. What he has done and is gone in there and given some of those programs the most wins they've had in recent history. And so it'll be very interesting for me to see what he can do with a team that's built to win now, as opposed to a team that has a struggled and maybe a little bit of a not so prominent past. You're coming into a program right now that is set up to succeed right away. And so the expectations for him are going to be a lot different than what he's used to in the past. But to get to talk about the guys, they return a lot of pieces from that 2024 team, and it all starts under center for this squad, as it does with most. You bring back at quarterback Luke Gyron, 2,500 yards, 36 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions a year ago, with almost 300 yards on the ground with this guy. And what you're getting out of Luke is a 6'1", 195-pound quarterback, over 5,000 passing yards in his career already. He was a 2024 first-team All-Sooner Athletic Conference selection. And then I look at, with quarterbacks, especially on teams that are performing well, how do you perform in the big game? And when you look back at the playoff performance from him just a year ago, 4 passing touchdowns, 396 yards in that playoff game. That was not the reason they couldn't get it done. And so if you got a guy at quarterback that can show up in the big moments, which I think is what they have down there in Ottawa, you're going to be set up for success. Now, his favorite target on the outside, they bring him back as well. Wide receiver Devicious Wilson, 24 catches, 620 yards, and 11 touchdowns a year ago. And I think what you notice right there, they spread the ball out. There wasn't necessarily one guy that ate up all the receptions on this offense. It was a balanced attack for this Spirit team. He's 6'5", Matt, 190 pounds. He's got a massive catch radius and is a guy that assuredly should be the go-to target this fall when it comes to the passing attack. It was a third-team All-American selection from the AFCA. And finally, on the defensive side of the ball, Justice Sosnicki, 54 tackles, 5 TFLs, got a couple PBUs last year, should be an anchor on this defensive side of the ball, grow into more of a leadership role. Again, 6'2", 220 pounds, a guy who has the frame to play at this level and probably the next, if we're being honest. 11 tackles in the playoff game last season. Again, I look back at those games. How do you show up when the lights are brightest? And to go down a little bit further, trying to verify some of these portal additions, from what I could tell, Khalil Damper, a wide receiver from Missouri Valley, will be making the move over there. He didn't see much time with the Vikings in 24, but again, a wide receiver core that is a very balanced attack. Look for him to get in the mix in 25. They pick up Corey Ardrey from Bethany. He's a defensive back, 30 tackles, 2 fumble recoveries, a pick just a year ago. And finally, Josiah Curry-Fulgham, previously at Lawrence Tech, Ferris State, Indiana Wesleyan, a journeyman type of college football guy, making his kind of last stand, so to speak, with this Ottawa, Arizona squad here. And it's going to be not an easy go for this Spirit team when it comes to 2025. You look at the schedule for these guys. We take a peek here at the 2025 schedule. They open things up, maybe not with the most crazy part of their schedule against Wayland Baptist, Nelson. Then you get into Oklahoma Panhandle. Things start to ramp up with Texas College and Arizona Christian and Texas Wesleyan, Louisiana Christian. Some of those teams on there that a lot of NAIA football fans will know. But that's all the notes I got on this Ottawa Spirit squad. I'm excited to follow along with them in the fall. Anything you think I missed off the top of your head?
No, I mean, I think too with that schedule, it's important to note that while the opponents kind of ramp up, they go home and then 4 straight games on the road.
Yep.
That is tough. That is extremely tough for any team, no matter how good or bad the opponent is. Will be really interesting to see how they do. But like you mentioned, such a balanced offensive attack, a team that has always been known for a potent offense, but it's sustainable. You talked about the balanced attack. You talked about how they spread the ball out. That means that guys like replaceable sounds a bit degrading, but like
Yes.
truthfully,
Yeah.
you can throw people in wherever and have them succeed. That is a good system to be running. The fact that they had the second best offense in the entire country last year and they reload most of those guys. I mean, these guys are probably going to be putting up 50 points a game. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I think that's a terrific nod. Excited to see down the stretch too, ending with Texas Wesleyan and Louisiana
Yep.
Christian will tell us a lot about this team heading into the postseason.
Absolutely. And my sleeper pick, maybe a little bit of an easy pick here, is they were right on the outside of the top 25 looking in. Kansas Wesleyan. We go back to the KCAC for good reason, because the level of football in there right now, from what I can tell, is top notch. 7-5 in 24. So they still, I think, apply for this sleeper status under our given criteria. You look at their SP plus splits, not anything to jump off the page. A top 20 defense a year ago, a balanced offensive attack, nothing that was earning them maybe national accolades as an entire unit. They made the playoffs. They got bounced by 1 score to Dickinson State in the first round. And again, we're talking about another program here, Matt, that will be under new leadership come this fall. Matt Middleton takes the reins over there at Kansas Wesleyan, and he came to KW in December after 2 seasons as an assistant at D2 powerhouse Harding, which is a very interesting deal. Of course, you talk about the triple option earlier with friends. Harding is known for the flex bone offense, that different kind of integration or style of triple option. Very different, but a hard-nosed style of football that they have been able to win at a very high level with, including a national championship run. And you go talk about this guy. He's been coaching since before I was born. That's 2001 for those of you who may be unfamiliar. This guy's been doing it literally forever in terms of my lifespan. He's got high school experience, all the way to Division I, and in between, he is a lifer. That's what we call guys like this, a dude who has spent his life devoted to the game. His athletic director says, quote, "This is a home run hire for the Coyotes down there," which is a neat deal. Now, you go in talking about some more recent news with this squad. Following the spring game, this is directly from coach. He says, quote, "We've got to go get some immediate help. We got to go get some people to come in to be in the 2 deep right now and help us." He says, anytime you have a team that loses 33 seniors and a lot of others, you're in a situation where you're replacing a whole lot of production. We got a lot of spots that we can fill in. And that's one of the reasons I think they qualify as that sleeper pick. I think a lot of people count them out because of the turnover to graduation, to transfer portal, and otherwise. And then, of course, to kind of fast forward to their conference a little bit, the other big reason they qualify for this sleeper status, so to speak, is you look at the KCAC, the way that it resets every 2 years, those 2 conference divisions. And you talked about it earlier. This year, they share the division with McPherson, Friends, Southwestern, 2 of which finished as top 25 teams a year ago. The other one on the outside looking in. The rest of the opponents in there, of course, not exactly chopped cheese, but should be a good competition for this Kansas Wesleyan squad. And to close it out, some big-time returners for these guys. I think you have to start with the guy that was really the bell cow and the focal point of this offense for Kansas Wesleyan out of the offensive backfield, that being running back Luke Armstrong. This is a guy that, again, was the focal point of the offensive attack a year ago for this Kansas Wesleyan team. He's got a great blend of speed. He's got shift. He's got power. 182 carries, almost 1,500 yards, and 16 touchdowns for the 5'11", 190-pound running back. To me, what stands out in the film right away, you saw it right there, open field cuts, those are dangerous. But to me, what I really liked watching him play, he's a decisive runner. He doesn't show hesitation. You don't always see that, Matt, from a team that has a lot of zone-style type schemes. Now, they will get some gap scheme in there. You see them pull the guard and the tackle watching some of their film from a year ago, and that's something that with that balance, to have a guy that is decisive in his cuts and his movements, he doesn't waste any movement, no false stepping or anything in the backfield that allows him to get out into the open field very quickly. Also, big piece of the special teams. Return man, 630 return yards a year ago, 2 touchdowns. He was an NAIA first-team All-American. Oh, out of breath, but that should tell you all you need to know about this guy. I mean, the dude is a dog. What do you know about Luke, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, just an absolute workhorse. I mean, he could do everything for you. And it's somebody that you want to build your offense around, especially coming off of what you might call a down year for your program, even though you still made the playoffs and like
Yeah.
squeaked in and had a competitive game there. It's funny you mentioned like not knowing how to name this team as a dark horse. When I did my KCAC preview, they were my dark horse pick as well. It's very weird to say that about a team that is coming off of a playoff run. But you talk about guys like, Luke, who are coming back. You talk about guys like Josh King Bradley, who are coming back. Absolutely humongous on both sides of the ball. And not to mention, there's a lot of transfers you have coming in. Like Coach said, they need help, and they're starting to get some of that help.
They absolutely are. And then I'll switch over and talk about one of the guys on the defensive side of the ball here at the defensive line spot, Josh King Bradley. This is a guy, 13 sacks a year ago for this Kansas Wesleyan defense, 17 and a half tackles for loss, 56 total tackles on the year. And this was an interesting one for me. He entered the portal officially, got offers from Kaiser, Grandview, amongst other NAIA and top Division II institutions. He decides, from what everything I can tell, he decides he is coming back to finish out his career at Kansas Wesleyan, which is a really big-time pickup for the Coyotes down there. Third-team All-American in 2024, the second highest sack total in all of the NAIA a year ago. So a big-time get for Coach Middleton and company down there. Just to get him back, I should say, to make sure you retain guys like that. And you look in the transfer portal. They brought in 3 transfer quarterbacks, which is something you don't see very often. Henry Ostad from Southeastern, J.D. Gallman from Washita Baptist, and then Coach's son, Caden Middleton from Arkansas Monticello. And that's something that is great to have competition in that room. I think I've talked about it a little bit before with some other teams. Henry started at quarterback all 9 games for the Fire last year, threw for almost 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Should probably be the front runner going into this year. But again, you've got competition, 3 guys who have experience at college football that should go in there, all be vying for that job. You also bring in a few offensive linemen, D linemen, fill out some of those trench spots in the portal already. They still have time to shore up some of those additions. A couple guys following coach over from Harding as well. Now, as far as what you lose, quarterback Byron McNair, he was kind of a dual threat type of guy, at least marketed as such. Didn't have the most accurate sophomore campaign. Did account for almost 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns through the air. And then you lose your top wide receiver, Earl Gray. 25 catches, 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's out this year along with linebacker Miles Earl. That's probably the biggest loss for them. Looking at the impact last year, a freshman that came in and was an all-conference contributor right away, over 100 tackles, I believe, on the season. He will most likely be going on to bigger and better. So that's the sleeper pick. Coyotes down there at Kansas Wesleyan, excited to follow along with them.